BetOnline is back and better than ever. A new web interface for the rest of the NFL season and the NBA season. More props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains the number one spot for all football and basketball action this season. Make sure to head over to the new updated desktop or mobile website and sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use the promo code BELIEVE50. That's BLEAV50. BELIEVE50 to receive your bonus. From football to basketball to NHL to boxing to UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the rest of the 2021 seasons. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. What up, TCK Potters? Welcome back to the program. I'm your host, Sky Guasco, joined by my man, Bobby Lamarco. We are continuing our mini-series this evening, diving into the NFC North. This afternoon, we did the AFC North. If you haven't yet checked that out, or the rest of our divisions, we broke down the East, NFC East, and AFC East last night. If you haven't checked that out yet, make sure you double back right here on the Fantasy Focus YouTube channel, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter as well. You can catch longer episodes of our podcast on the Candlestick Kids Fantasy Football Podcast, brought to you by, of course, the Believe Networks. Today we are getting into, again, the Packers, the Lions, the Bears, and the Vikings, breaking down the NFC North. I will take the hat of the player. If I were a player on those teams and a free agent, where do I want to go? What's the best case scenario for myself? Bob is going to play the GM per usual. If he's the Lions, the Bears, the Vikings, the Packers, who does he want to bring in of the available free agents around the NFL still that make his team better? We're taking two different angles. Make sure you leave a comment, hit subscribe, and the bell below. Bob, I'll kick it over to you, man. Let's get this rolling.
Yeah, man. First off, we've been talking all week about kind of our, not even predictions, but like ideal fits for players in each division, and also playing a little bit of the GM and taking on these guys. This is basically based on all the knowledge we've gathered, based on scheme, player leaving in free agency, what guys and where we think they'd be best suited for this team. Today, we're going to go over the NFC North. So, Sky, the first team we're going to talk about today is the Chicago Bears. So, like we always do it, man, talk about the players that are currently going to be free agents and where do you think their best fits are for 2022?
The big one here, man, no secret, Allen Robinson. Huge disappointment last year. I had him as my wide receiver 7 coming into the year. He had back-to-back wide receiver 7 finishes, over 150 targets in back-to-back years. Last year, absolutely implodes in Chicago. Didn't want to be there. They give him the franchise tag, had to come back, had to play under it, faced a couple injuries, new quarterback, rookie quarterback, head coach and OC that got fired. It was a mess in Chicago. So Allen Robinson looking to go elsewhere. There's a ton of teams that I think would benefit from a guy like Allen Robinson, who I do think still has plenty in the tank. And there's a lot of teams that Allen Robinson would like to go to because of where they're at. Now, of course, he wants to go to a winner, but the team that makes the most sense, in my opinion, is the Atlanta Falcons, who are not going to be winners, unfortunately, big time anytime soon. Now, this one is just basic math. You look at the Atlanta Falcons roster right now, Olamide Zaccheaus, gone. Then you have Calvin Ridley, gone. Obviously, Julio Jones left last year. Russell Gage, free agent, most likely gone. They literally have no wide receivers. So they don't have a choice. I think they go after a stud, a true number one, a target hog, a pro, Allen Robinson, but they owe $7 million to the cap. The Falcons are one of the teams in the NFL who are in real bad shape as far as the cap goes. So I think he should go to the Falcons. I would predict that he goes to the Falcons because I think it's the best fit for Allen Robinson. However, I think it's more likely that New England Patriots pick him up, the Las Vegas Raiders, Detroit Lions, New York Jets. He could go back to Jacksonville where he started his career. Those are all teams that make sense too. But if I'm the Falcons, I'm going to look at Allen Robinson.
So Chicago, I mean, obviously anybody could use Allen Robinson, but it just didn't seem like – I have no clue if the new GM and coach have spoken to Allen Robinson and said, hey, man, this isn't the same team. We still need you. You know, everybody needs an Allen Robinson. Justin Fields needs an Allen Robinson. I believe. But at the same time, I just don't think Allen Robinson is going to be really interested in returning to Chicago. So I'm putting my GM hat on. And of course, the new OC and the new play caller is Luke Getsy. And Luke Getsy comes from the Green Bay Packers. And the Packers are in salary cap hell. And they just got Aaron Rodgers under contract. We're not sure exactly what the number is yet, how much that cap is for this year. We know they just franchise tagged Devonta Adams, and that team is going to be tens of millions of dollars under the cap still. I don't think they had the luxury of getting Marcus Valdes-Scantling. I think Luke Getsy and the Chicago Bears realized that, you know what, we want to continue to surround this team with some talent. MVS has been long on talent, has been a little inconsistent at times, but he knows the system that Luke Getsy is going to bring in from Green Bay. And on top of that, listen, he's still relatively young, mid-20s, and it offers you an alternative to Darnell Mooney because Mooney's going to come in. Is he ready to be an alpha, true number one wide receiver? If you bring in a talented guy like MVS who knows the offense, who could take pressure off Darnell Mooney off the beginning, I think Marcus Valdes-Scantling, also 6'4" versus a 5'11" Mooney, offers you kind of a different skill set and size, but they're both vertical threats, which I really like with Justin Fields. We all talk about his deep ball accuracy, and that's been the biggest benefit of Justin Fields. So give me two guys on the outside, one big 6'4" guy, another 5'11" speedster on the other side. And I think we got something going here. And plus, you don't necessarily need to break the bank, but I think MVS is going to outprice himself for Green Bay. And I think Chicago takes advantage of that this year. All right, we're going to jump down to Detroit. Now, this team didn't win a lot of games, but Dan Campbell has us feeling like we're ready to run through a freaking wall. And I'm jacked up for some Dan Campbell. And I think the Detroit Lions are too. So, Sky, talk about their free agents. Where are these guys going? And where do you think the best fits are for 2022?
So if I look around the Lions for fantasy purposes, there's not a ton of free agency. They made a bunch of moves last year. They were high in the draft, took my man Penei Sewell up on the offensive line. They have a great offensive line building. They have a young defense that's getting better. Jared Goff is meh, but he's good for what they need now. Of course, a couple great running backs. They need wide receivers. So they bring back my man, Josh Reynolds. Josh Reynolds came over from Tennessee for a minute. He was with the Rams before that. He got overshadowed by Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp for a couple years with the Rams, but he played really well when he had the opportunity to play. And then Tennessee didn't really get an opportunity either, but when he was able to be called on, he played very well. I liked him a lot at Texas A&M back in the day with Mike Evans. I like this kid's talent on this show for years. I've been repping this kid for no reason. I just like the talent. Now he's with the Lions. I don't love the connection with him and Goff, but him coming back to the Lions is really just what I want to talk about because it makes perfect sense. There's not a player moving or coming into Detroit right now that I'm going to cover, but coming back, it's great. Right now, Bob, what do you talk about every show? Continuity matters. Jared Goff has been struggling the last couple seasons. Bring in a guy that he still has rapport with. Right? Everyone loves Amon-Ra St. Brown in fantasy, and rightfully so. Great kid out of USC. He's killing it. But Josh Reynolds has been flying under the radar, in my opinion, in the NFL for about 5 years. Let this kid be a nice, solid number 2. Also, big body, red zone option. TJ Hawkinson couldn't stay healthy last year, so maybe Josh Reynolds takes another step up. This is a building offense anyway. They'll probably bring in a wide receiver, but that's not my job. My job is the player himself. I like Josh Reynolds returning back to Detroit. He knows the quarterback, knows the system. Anthony Lynn leaves and comes to my Niners, but they're going to have a lot going after Dan Campbell. And you're right, Bob. They didn't win a lot of games, but they did compete more than I would say about 5 or 6 other teams in the NFL. If I'm a Lions fan, it's been a long, long, long time since I've been stoked, but at least I got something on the horizon. Hopefully Josh Reynolds can help him out.
So the Lions just watched Matthew Stafford go win a Super Bowl. And the guy they got in return was Jared Goff. And I think Jared Goff kind of showed us a little bit last year, especially in the second half once Dan Campbell took over play calling duties. But I don't care what anybody says. He was throwing to Khalif Raymond, Amon-Ra St. Brown, TJ Hawkinson was barely in the lineup, and then Josh Reynolds comes halfway through the year. I don't care what quarterback you are. They had the worst skill position group in the NFL. How do you expect a guy like Jared Goff to elevate the talent? But it seemed like Jared Goff, now that he didn't have the talent, really kind of elevated his game. He played better. When he had the Sean McVay, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, he didn't play up to that. But you got to remember, this guy went to a Super Bowl, and he dropped 50 that one time against the Chiefs. Remember, like the greatest game ever. But if I'm the Lions, I want to go all in. I want to see what Jared Goff's got. There's one guy in the market I believe that can help. That's Allen Robinson. I want to say to myself, I want to see if Jared Goff can take the next step. I believe Dan Campbell as the coach got them going in the second half. But listen, Josh Reynolds, great number 2 outside receiver. Amon-Ra St. Brown, fantastic slot receiver. TJ Hawkinson, definitely a stud tight end. But I want my alpha. I want my big time number 1 receiver. And I'm going to give Jared Goff the piece. I just watched Matthew Stafford win a Super Bowl. I'm pissed. I want to make the playoffs at least next year. And I'm going to invest in Jared Goff and say, you know what, man? But the best part, too, is Allen Robinson, get him under contract. You say to yourself, all right, we bring in a young kid, too. We're going to need talent anyway. So if you're going to bring in a young quarterback, and plus Allen Robinson, his favorite thing in the world is to play with shitty quarterbacks. So, hey, worst case scenario, Jared Goff arguably could be the best quarterback he's ever played with. But that's why I'm going to go out, and I'm going to go convince. I'm going to put Dan Campbell in a room, bite a kneecap, give it to Allen Robinson, have him bite the kneecap, and then he's a Detroit Lion. That's how we're going to get it done. Let's jump down to the Green Bay Packers. So we have a couple free agents. Devonta Adams is back. Aaron Rodgers re-signed. I just sent MVS off and running. But what's your thoughts on MVS and company for the Green Bay Packers free agents in 2022?
Well, you covered MVS, so I'll steer away from him real quick. And obviously, look, the one that was up in the air has now been taken care of. That's the big one, Devonta Adams. Clearly, we've talked about him extensively the last couple shows. I'll save that. But he's tagged. He returns back to Green Bay. Ho-hum, another year of Rodgers and Adams, which we all love. Let's focus on Robert Tunion. Broke out 2 years ago. They draft Jace Sternberger. Remember that name from a couple years ago in the draft? He does nothing yet, right? And this whole, Aaron Rodgers doesn't use his tight ends, yada, yada, yada. All of a sudden, Robert Tunion is out of nowhere. But that was a year where there was a lot of injuries around him. Last year, he got hurt himself, kind of a down season. I think they're going to cut ties with Robert Tunion. Still young, 28 years old, which is young for tight ends. They usually take a few years to develop and get going. I mentioned last episode, Bob, we were talking about the AFC North. We were covering the Bengals, and I went with CJ Uzomah getting shipped off to Minnesota. I like Robert Tunion to take his place in Cincinnati. So I'll take Robert Tunion in Cincinnati, young squad, athletic tight end. He's got the red zone upside, high-powered offense. They like to use the tight end there. And Robert Tunion taking over for CJ Uzomah is $4 million cheaper than CJ Uzomah if they ship him out to, let's say, Minnesota. So for me, Bobby Tunion going to Cincinnati.
So for the Green Bay Packers, the longest time developing these younger receivers after Devonta Adams. And I thought to myself, one of the guys I considered here was AJ Green, but I shipped him over to the Cleveland Browns. There's a veteran receiver who isn't ready to retire yet, in his 30s, who I believe would be a nice compliment to a Devonta Adams, and it's T.Y. Hilton. And Hilton has struggled.
I was waiting for you to go Antonio Brown.
Yeah, no. Well, if Antonio Brown didn't completely lose himself and take his shirt off and run through the end zone, maybe. But Hilton, listen, he's still, like last year, flashed a little bit, but did not play a lot of games. But it looks like the Colts are kind of going through some rebuild. They're trying to they're gotten younger. It looks like they're going to try another quarterback. Hilton's been hanging around. I think it's time that he goes to a team that needs a deep threat, number one, that replaces the MVS who just left, potentially leaving in free agency. You could probably convince T.Y. Hilton, hey, take the vet minimum, take something low priced, and we'll try to get you a ring. And I think this offers a compliment to Devonta Adams in the vertical passing game. It provides a reliable veteran that Aaron Rodgers will trust. Instead of dealing with all these day three developmental wide receivers he's been dealing with the last few years, it's time to give him another vet. I think T.Y. Hilton would be a great compliment. And without T.Y. being the number one, I think he could have a little resurgence playing with a guy like Aaron Rodgers. We've seen some monster years with him and Andrew Luck just a couple years ago. All right, let's jump down to the last team in this division, the Minnesota Vikings, guys. So give us our breakdown of the Vikings free agents.
I've been talking a lot about the tight ends. With Minnesota, CJ Uzomah coming in. If I'm the Minnesota Vikings, I'm bringing him in. I know off the injury, but I still got a young Irv Smith. Both of those guys I think will complement each other well for the Minnesota Vikings. So Tyler Conklin is my player for the Vikings moving on for the tight end position. And I've got Evan Ingram getting shipped out as well with your Giants, man. So I'm going to bring in your boy Tyler Conklin to take his place. Rudolph is gone. Evan Ingram's going to be gone. We got a plethora of wide receivers, but that tight end position is wide open at this point. I like Tyler Conklin to go up there. Minimal work last year, but he had great efficiency, good red zone efficiency. He can block a little bit. And I just think he's a good young player. Again, only 7 years old, $300K. He's basically free in NFL terms. So he's cheap. He's a red zone weapon. No Ingram, no Rudolph. For me, I'm going to take Tyler Conklin pretty cheap to head up there to New Jersey.
So we have a new coaching staff. Kevin O'Connell comes from the Rams. We have Kirk Cousins. We have a mainstay. We have, the biggest problem last year was the injury to Irv Smith, the injury to Adam Thielen. It was basically Justin Jefferson. Now, Thielen should be back, and Irv Smith should be back to man that tight end spot. But when I'm looking at this offense, the Vikings, one of the biggest, sort ups, of course, they have Dalvin Cook, Alexander Madison, is the offensive line. And what I want to do is I'm going to go get somebody that I'm familiar with. It's Austin Corbett, the guard from the Rams. This isn't a sexy pick, but when you're looking at the interior of this offensive line, the right guard spot last year, one of the lowest graded PFF grades, a day 3, 6th round offensive guard, did not work. And honestly, I'm tired of it. So I'm going to bring in Austin Corbett, who is the Rams guard right now, he had one of his best seasons of his career. He knows my system. He knows my run game. He knows with Kevin O'Connell. So I'm going to take him, bring him in, protect Kirk Cousins, and allow him to start getting to these weapons. Hopefully Thielen and Smith come back healthy along Justin Jefferson, and I'm rolling. So that's it. That's all we got for today for each of these teams. This is our breakdown of the NFC North. My apologies. Our wish list, if you will. Sky, any final thoughts before we close out?
Just big one in Green Bay, man. Back, business as usual with Rodgers and Adams coming back. I like Minnesota running it back with Kirk Cousins. There was talk early that he might go. I think he stays. Still believe in Adam Thielen, believe it or not. The Bears, they got a lot of retooling, but I like Justin Fields, and the Lions, man, on the bottom looking up. But I do think it's a squad that's starting to build a little bit. Come back with us tomorrow. We are continuing the mini series. We have got the South teams, AFC South, right? The Colts, the Texans, the Jags, and the Titans. And then the NFC South tomorrow evening as well. Bucks, Falcons, Panthers, and am I missing a team here? Bucks, Falcons. Oh, Saints. Excuse me. Jeez, it wasn't even on here. So come back with us tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening. We got another mini series here with the AFC and the NFC South fantasy free agent wish list for Bob. I'm Buck. Y'all have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.